but we will move on to our next speaker, Nick Harvey. Nick is here. Nick graduated from the College of Creative Studies at UC Santa Barbara with a degree in chemistry and biochemistry, then headed to the Bay Area to work at Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory as a staff scientist while working on a PhD in material science and engineering at UC Davis. Go Aggies. Shortly thereafter, Nick struck out on his own to pursue entrepreneurial ventures. BayAreaRedwood.com was founded serendipitously when Nick saw trees being thrown away while riding his bike. Nick leverages his background in chemistry and material science in his current venture. Welcome, Nick.
Thank you very much for having me here. So first, we're going to start with a prop I'm going to pass around. If y'all know about all the eucalyptus trees that were removed from Berkeley, last year, like a lot of them over on Claremont Canyon, I'm going to pass this around. This is blue gum eucalyptus, the wood everyone says can't be used. Pretty heavy. So what we're going to be talking about today is where we get building materials that really come from the urban environment. Primarily, we're going to focus on the urban forest. But if you look around you here, even inside of the freight and salvage, you'll see deconstructed urban wood all along the paneling. So I'm not a Mac person, so let's see if I can do this. Which button? Oh, blue one. There we go. So one of the biggest problems is that trees are coming down all the time, right? This is a job in San Ramon, and basically there's about 6 redwood trees. The one you can see that the crane is hooked onto, where they just did their first pick, that was about a 6-foot diameter redwood tree. And what happens is it's called the right tree, right place, or in this case, the wrong tree, wrong place. And when large trees like this are taken down, like when it impacts the foundation, they generally get thrown away. An even bigger problem is when we have mass urban deforestation, like in a redevelopment project. This is nearby our showroom in San Ramon, and you can see basically excavators going through. I think they took down about 700 logs at this site. Still in the process, but we might be able to recycle about 50 to 100 logs. So the solution is that we have a log recycling yard in the North Livermore Valley, stone's throw from actually the Stop Waste Altamont yard. And this is in June of last year. To show you what it looked like after about another 7 months, we recycled about 300 logs. And you can also see the beautiful wildflower bloom and the rolling green hills. Anything can be made from these logs that would otherwise enter the waste stream. This is what's called a Lucas mill. It's kind of a Swiss Army knife of mills. And what it does is it's able to cut dimensional lumber. So what you're able to see here is essentially dimensional lumber, like what you see on the walls, is you're making a rectangle out of a circle, and you're seeing where it can cut at those 90-degree angles. And so it's hard to see in this photo, but there's a sawmill blade near the end. Right here is actually a whole entire what's called cutlass of dimensional lumber. This is actually going to Cafe Aloni, opening up at UC Berkeley. Don't ask me when it's opening, but it will be soon. And Terramoto Landscapes, the landscape architecture and design firm that actually designed this and actually created it. Well, we created the cutlass, but told us what Legos need to be made. This is another really cool example. Another firm we work with is called ArborTech. They're a tree removal firm as well as a landscape firm. So we took their trees that were removed from a job in Fremont. It came to our log recycling yard. We milled up the 8x8s as well as the dimensional lumber, and you can see the pergola for a job they built in Castro Valley and that small inset down the corner. We also can use that same Lucas mill to cut slabs. So these are the examples of like tabletops that are coming right off the mill. Another mill that we use is what's called a Wood-Mizer LT70. This is a bandsaw mill, also portable like the other mill. It actually has what's called a hydraulic log roller on it. So what you may notice is that on the right-hand side of that photo, there's a cut on one side. And so the pieces of wood you see back down to the left off the mill have been offloaded. And so that's actually going through in order to cut dimensional lumber as well. And in the background, you can actually see the other Lucas mill that's set up as well as another perspective of the yard. We can also make things out of what you might think are useless, just stumps that have been bucked up, or when you take a log and cut it into small pieces. And so this is a project we did a couple of years back at Sanford's new hospital they built in Redwood City, and general construction firm was Hill House Construction. We also work with other materials besides redwood. Started as BayAreaRedWood, and redwood's actually pretty simple material to work with. But the piece of blue gum eucalyptus you see going around the room, y'all may have been aware of all the eucalyptus trees that were removed from the Berkeley Hills about a year ago. That was part of the Claremont Canyon Evacuation Support Project. This is about 1,900 logs that you see here. Conventional knowledge says that this material can't be used. It can be. It's not the easiest material to work with, though I'll show you an example of a project we have installed in downtown Livermore at Quest Science Center Plaza. Quest is an organization that looks to basically bring expansion of science to everyone, in particular low-income and disadvantaged communities and people that don't have that typical exposure. Feedback, maybe? I don't know. So this is an example of a rustic style fence. The piece that is passing around is actually a finished piece. So that'd be more something used for like decking. But the point being here is that we have all sorts of materials around us in the urban environment that many people see as waste. But if we look at it through a different lens, then we can turn it into something like siding or even building materials in a landscape. We're recycling 100% of our waste now. This is at Joaquin Miller Park up in the Oakland Hills, and Friends of Sawzall Creek working together with an Eagle Scout installed this. So on the right-hand side, what you're gonna see is the traditional split rail fence material, which has been oxidized. What we do is we take the leftover cuts, like the part that you saw in the 1 mil a few slides back that are rounded, and then those get resawed and then basically turned into live edge fencing instead of split rail fencing. Essentially, whenever we bring on what is someone else's waste to our log recycle yard, we would have to export that waste off the property. So it makes more sense for us to put a little bit more into further processing it, and you can ultimately get something like this. Primarily what we focus on is really like making furniture, right? So this is an example of like an interior and residential project where we did a Valley Oak dining table, and then we used some reclaimed fir blocks that basically acted as seating for one side of the table. And you can see our products at our retail showroom in San Ramon. This is actually an old photo. I would have a new photo, which I'll show you next, but last week we actually got a larger space, which we're really excited for. So we'll be offering a variety of different products there, which are gonna be basically floating shelves and mantles, standing desks, custom tables, really being the main things, but really a place where people can interact with materials that otherwise would be wasted. I'm gonna try and rush through this week questions. So I don't know how much y'all know about deconstruction, but everyone loves to talk about it, right? So this is a huge project in San Francisco we did. Imagine 200-foot wide shear walls, 32-foot tall ceiling. So we deconstruct about 60% of that wood. Here you can see some of it in San Ramon, but the one I really want to focus on is at Ashkenaz here in Berkeley. We supplied all the siding material. So that's currently undergoing renovations. And that's our largest project to date with that material. So that being said, I'd like to open the floor to questions.
Thank you. That's so cool. Like eucalyptus everywhere. Oh, and I see the wood is still being passed around. All right. Do we have any questions for Nick? Oh, right here, Veronica.
Hi, thank you. So interesting. Can you please, so my understanding is that price and wood has gone up pretty dramatically recently, and I actually don't really know why. So I'm curious if you know, and then if you could talk about how that might be impacting your business model.
Yeah, great question. It really just has to do with moving stuff around and just the cost of moving things. There's like infinite amounts of raw material, right? Like all this fire salvage wood. The cost has to do just with supply chains. How has it impacted us? One of the biggest challenges, all the wood we have is not graded. So since it's not graded, it limits actually the uses for us to be able to sell it, hence why we make furniture. So for example, in the Ashkenaz, the reason that material was needed is because it was a historical like renovation, right? So you needed material of that era, and we just happen to have that material. So the biggest challenge is we have infinite supply, right? But how can we move all that feedstock, and coming somewhere like here at Freight and Salvage and talking about our work helps to get out our mission and what we're trying to do.
Do we have any questions online?
Yes, we do. We have one from Laura Brazil. What is your background to know how to launch your business? And the second part of the question, how long did it take you to get started and connected?
Yeah, I had no idea what I was doing. On another version of this presentation is it shows where I literally started out of my like backyard. So like if you go on Google Maps, you can see me working in my like, if you want, I can pull this up. There's a way for me to show it. Literally you can see me on Google Street View, shirtless by the way, and short hair, just working. And then my backyard became a lumber yard, and I started just like selling wood on Craigslist. I got banned because someone on Nextdoor didn't like me. No, her name's not Karen. So anyways, I still won't use Nextdoor to this day to advertise, but I ask people if they will like go talk about us on Nextdoor because it's a really good place.
All right, I think we're moving on. Can we move on? All right, thank you so much, Nick.